esteemed members of ARCS, and a big thank you to John Robinette for inviting me to this session and producing this recording. Perhaps let me introduce myself first. My name is Sixtine Cruchfield. I'm currently residing in Switzerland, in Geneva, Switzerland. And I've been busy in the arts industry for the last 35 odd years. And I've also been involved in education for quite a while, holding different roles, etc., in Australia for the government with younger kids, with adolescent kids. I was also been a language teacher, and recently now at university level, I've written an MBA for Geneva Business School. My background starts in the early 80s when I was a student at the University of Denver, where I hold a bachelor in art history, journalism, in fact, mass communications major, and then in art history and arts and history of the theater as minors. I then returned to Geneva, Switzerland, which is where I'm originally from, to work with a gallery called Jan Crugier. It no longer exists, but Jan Crugier was probably one of the top 10 gallerists throughout the 80s. We represented the Marina Picasso collection amongst many other masterpieces, and we also had a contemporary art department. We exhibited in every art fair that possible, and all the major ones for sure, on a regular basis. And we also opened galleries in New York and toured the Marina Picasso exhibition, which took me to Australia. And then in Australia, as I said, I previously mentioned, I worked for the government in various education programs, but also the culture up in the Northern Territory, the Aboriginal culture, in an office called Brown's Mart Community Arts. And we looked after all 7 arts, actually, cinema, as well as music and dance and literature and art, of course. And so that's sort of where it takes me, and back to Geneva. And currently, I've organized art fairs. I've worked for a company called Natural Le Culte, which was a shipping company, and my role was to organize their major event, which was an annual event in Moscow for 8 years. And then I did more art fairs under the same umbrella in Salzburg during the Festspiele, and we had something like 120 to 200 major exhibitors, both jewelry, high-end, high street jewelry, as well as, of course, antiques, fine art, contemporary art, right now, recently, and since the pandemic, I've been very much involved in the digital art world and also the creation of NFTs, and right now under development, the metaverse. And I'm doing that for a company called WiseKey, and I'm running the wise.art platform as the art director. So it is a secured, vetted art platform, which is very much like a digital gallery, except that we've got that added bonus of cyber security and, of course, the production of NFTs. So that's basically yes, I do think art is a leitmotif in my life. And I'm very happy at this stage to be able to teach it and to be able to share this expertise. I don't think it's been done in the past as far as art management goes, or collection management. So I think putting all this expertise and experience, for that matter, and a bit of wisdom will help future students to get on with it a little bit quicker. In fact, when I was doing the market research for this MBA, I found that many galleries, museums, even customs officers and logistics were saying, if somebody followed that course, we could employ them and not have to train them quite as extensively as we do now, because an history of art student comes out with very little knowledge of the actual arts and crafts of the matter. So what do I see as critical in the new subjects? Well, as I just said, it's a turning point in our lives, I think, in the art world in general, but I think in the whole world. I mean, there's questions, yes, of course, of climate change, but there's a lot of societal questions. There's a lot of economical questions. And of course, now there's a lot of unsteady or unstable politics in the world as well. And art as a means to express themselves. So for the artists who are studying and art school right now, I can only encourage them to learn their craft as best as possible, because they'll be the ones that we'll be listening to eventually in all this turmoil, to set it back straight. So artists have a huge role to play. But I also think that with the new technologies that are being developed, that have been in development for the last 20 years, things such as cryptocurrencies, such as artificial intelligence, such as the metaverse, which is coming on, the Web3, which is coming on, art has a huge role to play. And we saw that with the pandemic, in that creativity didn't stop. It's not because we're confined at home. It's not because nothing is open outside that the brain doesn't keep on creating. I mean, that's where we're humans. And artists have been very, very keen. Like obviously there's been a lot of Zooming, and there's been a lot of call conferencing, but there's also been a lot of people videoing their art, putting it on Instagram, showing it out there, sharing it to the world. We've seen the Paris Royal Ballet, play. They were dancing on the balcony, from one balcony to the other, exchanging. We've seen musicians play their role and their part in a band from different areas of the world. And I think that's opened a whole lot of new tools to express this creativity, which is not going to go away. Once we've had the taste of it, I think it's very difficult now to go back. Of course, it's going to be side by side. I strongly believe that concerts will still happen, and pandemic or not pandemic. But on the other hand, there are bands reforming. We've all heard of ABBA. There's other ones. Obviously, there's now a thing called Metalverse that just came out this morning. So bands are reforming. I'm sure actors are redoing their things. They've got avatars, being developed, etc. So all that new technology, I think, is a plus. I think needs to be taught, and more or less also needs to be very well understood, and needs the disadvantages and the beneficial factors, as well as the harming and damaging factors, need to be very well understood, so we avoid as many mistakes as possible. I mean, I'm sure because of ignorance we will make mistakes, but I think listen to also the adolescents who are screaming out for help, and ID problem, identification issues, etc. All that is a part of it, and I think we need to be open, we need to be solidary, and we need to use these new tools to fix things. And again, in order to do that, you need to understand them. How does the curriculum address this? How do we adjust our programs? Well, again, I think starting from history, I'm a strong believer that history repeats itself, and we can learn from our mistakes, but also just learn from history. So I think all the new technology is there, but it's nothing new. And we went from painting and sitting in an artist studio at the end of the 19th century, to photography in the early 20th century, to video, to having our own PCs and everyone being democratizing the system, to now very advanced technology, which a lot of people already master quite well. So teaching that in schools, I think, can only be a plus. Also, I think one of the things that the pandemic has taught us is to be knowledgeable enough so that you can bounce back when there's a setback. For example, how many times have we organized exhibitions, events in the past year, even as much as organizing school and everything, and then, well, we got sick, or we had no more electricity, or the connectivity wasn't good because we were teaching online, which was fine, but people were all over the place and not all of them had internet. So what do we do? So, we all came up with plan B, even plan C, D, and further, and up to plan Z. It doesn't matter. But I think we need to teach people to have enough knowledge so that we can bounce back and find adequate solutions quickly. I think we're working in a very fast-moving environment, and we need to have this background so that we can bounce back and come up with solutions. And being creative in that respect is important for students to do that. Amidst great resignation, how do we attract new people in the field and reach more diverse audiences? Well, that, I think, the online has been easily done. I mean, we don't talk about geographical regions anymore. We're a global world. and that's fine. Like, you know, in the MBA that that I've devised, I'm not teaching it, I'm supervising it, and I'm organizing the field trips. You know, to attract more audiences, you can actually spread your wings and cover all sorts of different. I'm sure somebody who wanted to be a chemist to learn, you know, to be a pharmacist, never thought about working in the art world. Well, today it's possible because it's necessary and it's needed. And the art world, this new technology, AI, you know, immersive exhibitions, people movement in a museum, interactive, all that sort of thing. They're all new areas of potential study and potential improvement in the art world today. So I think shouldn't be a problem to attract and to have diversification in your student body. One of the last questions that I was given was, note the changes that I'm currently seeing taking place and the role of the pandemic. Well, I think the role of the pandemic, the result of it was that everything got accelerated to an incredibly fast rhythm, and that we need to let go of our old habits and you know, our old ways of teaching. I think we need to be much more aware of what's going on around us. The NFT world is a completely new area, including for me, with a new audience, with new communities, interacting all the time, worldwide for that matter. So we need to embrace that as the you know, faculty of any school, and need to be a fait. I always think, you know, you teach people what you know. So I think that's one of the good reasons. I also think that it's given us time to think about, you know, how we worked in the past in regards to climate change, in regards to sharing and being solidary and raising funds for various causes and things like that. And I think impact investment should also be part of a program now. And that, final thoughts. Let's see. For upcoming professionals, well, other than being open, being curious, and also in this time where it's very difficult job-wise, etc., I think give hope, bring the world of hope, and also be mentors, like share your networks, introduce your students, give them a chance, give them case studies that are actual case studies, you know, someone with a new project or whatever, help them during the course. I think that's the biggest thing, is a message of hope. I've heard a lot of colleagues talking about doom and, you know, that the boomer society, the boomer generation did it all wrong, and, you know, and we're leaving such a awful world to our future generations. I don't believe so. I think we learned a lot, but now let's apply. Let's use what we've learned and integrate the new technologies and benefit, basically. I hope that was enough. I hope that works. My name is Sixtine Cruchfield. John Robinette knows where to find me. Anybody has any questions or would like to add more, I would be delighted to discuss. I can be reached on LinkedIn under Sixtine Cruchfield. And I wish you all a very, very happy long weekend. Bye for now, and thank you again.